20. Most scary scandals that Hollywood tried to hide. Must watch. Hollywood has long been known for its glitz and glamour, but what if we told you that some of the most iconic stars of all time have been hiding dark, shocking secrets? From abusive power plays behind the scenes to scandalous affairs and controversial statements. The truth behind Hollywood's biggest names may surprise you. Did Alfred Hitchcock manipulate his actresses to further his career? Was John Lennon's infamous remark about the Beatles really as innocent as he claimed? You won't believe the full story. Hit the like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Uncovered Tinseltown. Uncovered for more jaw-dropping Hollywood secrets. Loretta Young. Loretta Young was a renowned actress whose career spanned over 3 decades from the early days of Hollywood to television in the 1960s. She became famous for her roles in films such as The Farmer's Daughter, 1947, and The White Parade, 1934, earning an Academy Award for Best Actress in 1948. However, her personal life was fraught with scandal, especially regarding her secret affair with fellow actor Clark Gable. In 1935, while filming Call of the Wild Young, and Gable had a brief affair that resulted in Young becoming pregnant. Due to the stigma surrounding out-of-wedlock pregnancies in Hollywood, Young went to great lengths to keep the affair and the pregnancy a secret. She fled to Europe, gave birth to a daughter, Judy Lewis, and placed her in an orphanage. For the first 19 months of Lewis's life, she was hidden from the public, with Gable never publicly acknowledging his paternity. It wasn't until Judy was 31 that she discovered the truth about her biological father. Young's decision to keep the birth a secret, as well as her efforts to protect her reputation, were seen as reflective of the pressures that women in Hollywood often faced during the golden age of cinema. Despite her own personal struggles, Young continued to have a successful career. She went on to have a second, much more public marriage to producer Tom Lewis, and later starred in the long-running television series The Loretta Young Show, which aired from 1953 to 1961. Young's legacy in Hollywood is marked not just by her talent and elegance, but also by her complicated personal life and the sacrifices she made to maintain her image in a time when public scandal could end careers. Jean Harlow. Jean Harlow was a blonde bombshell and one of the most famous sex symbols of the 1930s, known for her roles in films like Platinum Blonde 1931 and Red Dust 1932. Harlow's career was marked by her sensual on-screen persona, and she quickly became one of the biggest stars in Hollywood during the early days of the talkies. However, her personal life was filled with scandal, much of it involving her tumultuous relationships and marriages. Harlow's first marriage at the age of 16 was to Chuck McGrew, a rich businessman, but it ended in divorce. Her second marriage to Paul Byrne, a film executive at MGM, was shrouded in mystery and tragedy. Byrne, who was 22 years older than Harlow, died under suspicious circumstances just 2 months after their marriage in 1932, officially ruled a suicide. Byrne's death sparked rumors of foul play, and some speculated that it may have been a result of Harlow's overbearing mother, Mother Jean, who was known to have a controlling influence on her daughter's life and relationships. Another scandalous chapter in Harlow's life occurred when she was involved in a secret affair with William Powell, one of Hollywood's leading men. Though they were both romantically involved, their relationship was complicated by Harlow's controlling mother, who had always tried to maintain control over her daughter's personal life. At the time, MGM Studios kept Harlow's love life tightly under wraps, fearful that any public scandal could damage her carefully crafted image. Despite these personal challenges, Harlow's career continued to soar. Her iconic role in Dinner at 8, 1933 solidified her status as one of the top actresses of her time. However, her life was tragically cut short when she died of kidney failure at the age of 26 in 1937, just as she was about to sign a major contract with MGM. Harlow's death, combined with the secrets and scandals surrounding her short but impactful life, turned her into a tragic figure in Hollywood lore, and her legacy as both a star and a woman caught in the complexities of fame continues to captivate audiences. Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle Roscoe. Fatty Arbuckle was one of the most successful comedic actors in the silent film era, known for his slapstick humor and towering presence. Arbuckle's career soared in the early 1920s, making him one of the highest-paid actors in Hollywood. However, his life took a devastating turn in 1921 when he was accused of assaulting actress Virginia Rappe at a wild party in San Francisco. Rappe had fallen ill during the event, and soon after she tragically passed away from peritonitis. The media quickly sensationalized the incident, and despite Arbuckle's claims of innocence, he was charged with her murder. The legal battles that followed were widely publicized, and Arbuckle faced not one but 3 trials. In the first 2 trials, the juries were hung, but in the third trial, Arbuckle was finally acquitted due to lack of evidence. Nevertheless, the damage to his reputation was irreparable. Hollywood studios, fearing public backlash, blacklisted him, and his career came to a grinding halt. He attempted a comeback by working under the pseudonym William Goodrich, but the public never fully embraced him again. At the age of 46, Arbuckle passed away in 1933, and many close to him, including fellow actor Buster Keaton, suggested that the emotional toll from the scandal contributed to his untimely death. Arbuckle's story remains one of Hollywood's most tragic tales of success lost to a scandal, and despite his acquittal, the shadow of Virginia Rappe's death forever tarnished his legacy. Walt Disney. Walt Disney is remembered worldwide for creating an empire of entertainment that has shaped generations from Mickey Mouse to Disneyland. However, his legacy isn't as flawless as it might seem. In the 1930s, Disney became embroiled in a controversy that was kept under wraps for decades. As tensions escalated in Europe during the rise of Nazi Germany, Disney's connections to the film world raised eyebrows. One of the most surprising elements of his history was his association with Leni Riefenstahl, the German filmmaker who was celebrated by Adolf Hitler for her propaganda work, particularly her film Olympia, which glorified the 1936 Berlin Olympics. In 1938, Disney attended a private screening of Riefenstahl's controversial work despite the Hollywood Anti-Nazi League's condemnation of her. This was a period when Hollywood was publicly distancing itself from Nazi sympathizers. Yet Disney's attendance at a screening hosted by Riefenstahl was a clear contradiction to the prevailing sentiment. Though the exact nature of Disney's connection to Riefenstahl remains unclear, this scandal was largely buried at the time. Many chose to overlook this connection due to Disney's stature as a cultural icon and his later contributions to American entertainment. However, this hidden association serves as a reminder that even the most revered figures in history may have complex, unspoken ties that challenge the narratives built around them. The full extent of Disney's political inclinations and how they aligned with or contradicted the broader Hollywood climate remains a fascinating and often overlooked chapter in his biography. Jerry Lee Lewis. Jerry Lee Lewis, one of the pioneers of rock and roll, became both a musical icon and a symbol of scandal in 1957 when his personal life spiraled out of control. Known for his electrifying performances and fiery personality, Lewis achieved massive success with hits like Great Balls of Fire and Whole Lotta Shakin' Goin' On. However, his career was abruptly halted when at the height of his fame, it was revealed that he had married his 13-year-old cousin, Myra Gale Brown, just months after divorcing his second wife. The news shocked the public, and the scandal erupted across the media, with many condemning the age difference and the fact that she was still legally a child. The controversy severely damaged his career. His American tour was canceled, and radio stations blacklisted his music. In the aftermath, his career struggled, and Lewis was even banned from performing in many countries. Despite the personal and professional fallout, Lewis refused to let the scandal define him. Over the years, he married 7 times, and his personal life remained the subject of media scrutiny. However, Lewis made a remarkable comeback in the 1960s, performing again and reclaiming his place in rock and roll history. His legacy remains complicated. While he is lauded for revolutionizing music, His personal life, especially the scandalous marriage, is an undeniable part of his story. Lewis's tale is a reminder that even the greatest artists can be brought down by their own mistakes. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was one of the most glamorous and successful actresses of Hollywood's golden age, known for her roles in films like Mildred Pierce and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. However, her personal life became just as infamous as her career, largely due to the shocking revelations made by her daughter, Christina Crawford, in the 1978 memoir, Mommy Dearest. Christina accused Joan of being a neglectful, cruel, and abusive mother. The book painted Joan as a woman obsessed with her public image, willing to sacrifice her relationship with her children to maintain her career and reputation. The memoir alleged that Joan subjected Christina to physical abuse, including beatings, and emotionally tortured her. The allegations were explosive, causing a media frenzy and forever tarnishing Joan's legacy. The public was stunned by the contrast between Joan's glamorous, beloved screen persona and the harsh, unflattering portrait of her as a mother. While Joan's other children defended her, calling the accusations exaggerated or false, the damage was done. The book was later adapted into a campy film, Mommy Dearest, starring Faye Dunaway, which turned the story into a pop culture phenomenon. Despite the controversy, Joan Crawford's career didn't come to a complete halt. She continued to work in film and television, but the public's perception of her was forever altered. Her once revered status as a Hollywood icon was overshadowed by the scandal, and the publication of Mommy Dearest remains one of the most famous celebrity tell-alls in Hollywood history. Joan's tragic story reflects the complex, often dark side of fame and the personal toll it can take on those who live in the spotlight. Woody Allen. Woody Allen is one of the most prolific and influential filmmakers in Hollywood, known for his sharp wit and neurotic characters. However, his career has been forever overshadowed by scandal, particularly his controversial relationship with Soon-Yi Previn, the adopted daughter of his former partner Mia Farrow. The affair became public in the early 1990s and shocked the world due to the significant age difference. Allen was 35 years older than Soon-Yi. What made the situation even more complicated was that Allen had been romantically involved with Farrow for over a decade and had become a father figure to her children, including Soon-Yi. The scandal deepened in 1992 when Farrow accused Allen of sexually molesting their adopted daughter, Dylan Farrow, though Allen has always denied these allegations and no criminal charges were filed. The media frenzy around the allegations and his relationship with Soon-Yi led to intense public scrutiny, but surprisingly, the couple remained together. Allen and Soon-Yi married in 1997, and their relationship persists to this day. While Allen continued to make films, his career was affected by the scandal, with many actors and collaborators distancing themselves from him over the years. Despite the controversy, Allen's films such as Annie Hall and Manhattan remain critically acclaimed, and he continues to make movies. However, the accusations against him and the unconventional relationship with Soon-Yi have marred his legacy, leaving many to question how his personal life affects the appreciation of his work. The debate over whether Allen should be celebrated for his artistic contributions or condemned for his actions remains a point of contention in the entertainment industry. Rudolph Valentino. Rudolph Valentino, one of Hollywood's most famous silent film stars, captivated audiences with his roles in films like The Sheik 1921 and Blood and Sand 1922. Known for his exotic looks and passionate performances, Valentino became a cultural icon in the 1920s. However, his sudden death at the age of 31 turned his life into a scandalous mystery that continues to fascinate people today. Valentino died on August 23, 1926, from complications related to a ruptured ulcer, but rumors quickly spread that his death was not as simple as it seemed. The actress Pola Negri, who was romantically involved with Valentino at the time, famously claimed to be his fiancée, even though there was no confirmation of this engagement. Negri's dramatic public displays at his funeral, including fainting multiple times, added fuel to the speculation that their relationship had been far more intimate and complicated than publicly known. To add to the mystery, a number of stories emerged about Valentino's supposed cursed ring, which he had reportedly purchased just before his death. The legend suggested that anyone who wore the ring would face misfortune or even death, and after Valentino's death, several individuals connected to the ring met untimely and tragic ends, perpetuating the myth of the curse. The ring, which had been given to Negri, vanished, and its supposed malevolent power only deepened the enigma surrounding Valentino's passing. Despite the tragic nature of his death, Valentino's impact on Hollywood was immense, as his films continued to influence generations of actors and filmmakers. His death, combined with the rumors and his passionate fan following, led to the creation of the Valentino mystique. His legacy as one of the first true screen idols remains intact, and his death became the foundation for one of Hollywood's most enduring scandals. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe, one of Hollywood's most iconic figures, remains synonymous with beauty fame and vulnerability. Her career skyrocketed in the 1950s, with hit films like Some Like It Hot and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, but her personal life was fraught with scandal and tragedy. Monroe was at the center of a series of infamous rumors, particularly regarding her relationships with high-profile figures, including the Kennedy brothers. The most widely speculated and publicized aspect of Monroe's life was her rumored affair with John F. Kennedy, the U.S. president, and later with his brother Robert F. Kennedy. Her sultry "Happy Birthday, Mr. President" performance for JFK in 1962 became one of the most memorable moments in Hollywood history, fueling the idea that their relationship went beyond mere friendship. The speculation intensified when Monroe's tragic death later that year at the age of 36 was ruled as a probable overdose. Many believed that her connection to the Kennedy family played a part in her untimely death, with theories ranging from suicide to murder. Monroe's death remains one of the most mysterious in Hollywood. Despite the official ruling of suicide, numerous conspiracy theories have circulated, suggesting that she may have been silenced due to her alleged affairs with the Kennedys or her ability to threaten political stability. Her passing left the world wondering if her relationships with the Kennedys, especially with Robert F. Kennedy, who was reportedly very close to Monroe in the weeks leading up to her death, played a role in her demise. To this day, the exact circumstances surrounding Monroe's death continue to be a source of intrigue and speculation, cementing her place not only as a Hollywood legend, but as a tragic and enigmatic figure. George Reeves. George Reeves, the actor best known for portraying Superman in the 1950s television series Adventures of Superman, was an American icon in his own right. However, his life came to an untimely and mysterious end, which has sparked decades of speculation and intrigue. In the early hours of June 16, 1959, Reeves was found dead from a gunshot wound in his Beverly Hills home. Officially, his death was ruled a suicide, but many who knew him as well as those who were close to the events surrounding that night strongly disputed this conclusion. Reeves's death was shrouded in mystery from the start. The actor had been struggling with his career at the time, often typecast as Superman, which led to personal frustrations. However, friends and colleagues believed Reeves was not the type of person who would take his own life. On the night of his death, Reeves was hosting a party at his home, and several people were present, including his fiancée, Leonore Lemon, and others. Yet no one immediately contacted the police after hearing the gunshot. It wasn't until several minutes later that the authorities were called, raising questions about the circumstances leading up to his death. The most enduring mystery surrounding Reeves's death involves his relationships with women, particularly with Toni Mannix, the wife of MGM executive Eddie Mannix, who was allegedly involved with Reeves for years. Some believe that Reeves's death may have been the result of an affair gone wrong, or that he was silenced by someone close to the Mannix family. Theories have ranged from suicide to murder, with the murder theory suggesting that Reeves may have been killed to prevent him from revealing secrets tied to his personal life and Hollywood politics. Though the official narrative remains suicide, The mysterious events surrounding his death have ensured that George Reeves remains a tragic, enigmatic figure in Hollywood history. Debbie Reynolds. Debbie Reynolds was an actress, singer, and dancer who became one of the most beloved stars of the 1950s and 1960s, known for her roles in Singin' in the Rain and the unsinkable Molly Brown. Despite her cheerful on-screen persona, Reynolds' personal life was fraught with drama, much of it centered around her tumultuous relationships. One of the most famous scandals in her life was her marriage to Eddie Fisher and the subsequent love triangle with Elizabeth Taylor. In 1959, Eddie Fisher, Reynolds' husband, left her for Taylor, who was grieving the loss of her husband Mike Todd in a plane crash. Fisher rushed to Taylor's side to comfort her, and within a month, he and Reynolds were separated. The public was shocked by the affair, as Fisher and Taylor's relationship was widely seen as a betrayal. The scandal was compounded by the fact that Fisher had been one of Hollywood's most beloved stars at the time, and his affair with Taylor was widely publicized. The fallout from this affair turned Reynolds from a starlet into a public figure defined by heartbreak and scandal. Despite the emotional toll, Reynolds held her head high, and over time her relationship with Taylor evolved from bitterness to friendship. Later, Reynolds herself found new love, but her marriage to Fisher and the fallout from his affair with Taylor remained a central part of her story. Reynolds would later speak about the ordeal with a mixture of humor and pain, and she became a symbol of resilience in Hollywood. She continued her career in film and television, becoming a beloved icon and an enduring figure in Hollywood history. Mae West. Mae West was a force to be reckoned with in early Hollywood, known for her bold sexuality, quick wit, and boundary-pushing performances. Her career was shaped by scandal from the very beginning, as she defied the conservative norms of the time and presented herself as a fierce advocate for sexual freedom and female empowerment. West made her mark in Hollywood with her films like She Done Him Wrong, 1933, where she famously delivered the line, "Why don't you come up sometime and see me?" West's unapologetic sexuality often put her at odds with Hollywood and the censors of the time. Her risque humor and bold on-screen persona led to numerous clashes with the production code administrators, which led to her films being heavily scrutinized and censored. Her flirtatious image and daring innuendos sparked public debate about what was acceptable in filmmaking, her one of the most controversial figures of her time. However, West capitalized on her controversy, using it to fuel her career and further her status as a cultural icon. Despite her early success, West faced personal and professional challenges throughout her life. After being blacklisted by Hollywood for her controversial films and behavior, she turned to theater and continued to perform on stage for many years. In addition to her acting, West also became known for her writing, penning plays, screenplays, and books that further explored themes of sex and independence. West's impact on Hollywood was profound. She broke taboos and challenged traditional notions of femininity and power, leaving a legacy that would influence generations of actresses who followed. Although she faced significant opposition during her time, Mae West became an enduring figure in American culture, embodying defiance and boldness. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin is regarded as one of the greatest filmmakers and actors in the history of cinema, known for his iconic character, the Tramp, and his ability to blend slapstick comedy with poignant social commentary. However, Chaplin's career was not without its share of controversy. His rise to fame in the silent film era was meteoric, and his work such as The Kid, 1921, and City Lights, 1931, continues to be revered today. But behind the scenes, Chaplin's personal life was marred by scandal, particularly in relation to his political views and his relationships with younger women. In the 1940s, Chaplin's political beliefs, particularly his sympathy for leftist ideologies, put him at odds with the U.S. government during the era of McCarthyism. He was accused of being a communist sympathizer, and during a trip to England in 1952, U.S. immigration officials denied him re-entry to the country. His exile was a direct result of his political views, and Chaplin would live in Switzerland for the remainder of his life. This exile became one of Hollywood's most controversial moments, as Chaplin had been a beloved figure in American cinema, and many viewed the government's actions as politically motivated. Chaplin's relationships with young women also added to his notoriety. He married Lita Gray, a 16-year-old, when he was 35, which caused public outrage. His later marriages, including to Una O'Neill, the daughter of playwright Eugene O'Neill, were also widely scrutinized, particularly due to the age gaps. Despite these scandals, Chaplin's career never lost its luster. He continued to make films, including Limelight 1952, and was finally awarded an honorary Academy Award in 1972 when he returned to the U.S. for the first time in 20 years. Chaplin's life and career are a testament to the tension between artistic brilliance and the personal controversies that often accompany fame. Natalie Wood. Natalie Wood was one of Hollywood's brightest stars, celebrated for her talent, beauty, and versatility. She earned critical acclaim at a young age, starring in iconic films such as Miracle on 34th Street 1947 and West Side Story 1961. However, her life took a tragic and mysterious turn when she died under suspicious circumstances in 1981. At the time of her death, Wood was on a yacht trip off Catalina Island with her husband Robert Wagner and co-star Christopher Walken. In the early hours of November 29, 1981, Wood was found floating in the water, drowned. The official cause of death was ruled as an accidental drowning, but the circumstances surrounding her death have remained a topic of controversy for decades. Wood's relationships, especially her turbulent marriage to Wagner, have been at the center of speculation regarding her death. It was reported that Wood and Wagner had a heated argument the night she disappeared, allegedly due to Wagner's jealousy over her interactions with Walken, who was also on the boat. This led to intense media coverage and theories about foul play. The lack of immediate action following her disappearance raised further suspicions. It wasn't until 2011, when new information came to light from the yacht's captain, that the case was reopened, yet no definitive conclusions were reached. Wood's death has since become one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries. The combination of her on-screen talent, her tragic passing at just 43 years old, and the ongoing questions surrounding her death have made her story both heartbreaking and fascinating. While her legacy as an actress continues to shine, the circumstances of her death have forever marked her as a tragic figure in Hollywood history. Clark Gable. Clark Gable, often referred to as the King of Hollywood, was one of the most charismatic and beloved actors of his era. Known for his iconic role as Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind. 1939, Gable was the epitome of the American leading man. His smoldering good looks, magnetic charm, and undeniable on-screen presence made him one of the highest-paid and most popular actors of the 1930s and 1940s. However, Gable's life off-screen was not without its share of scandals, particularly regarding his relationships and his personal life. One of the most shocking aspects of Gable's personal life was his secret love child with actress Loretta Young. During the filming of Call of the Wild 1935, Gable and Young had an affair, and she became pregnant. Due to the scandal of an extramarital affair, Young kept the pregnancy a secret, and the child, Judy Lewis, was placed in an orphanage for the first 19 months of her life. Gable, who was married at the time to actress Carole Lombard, never publicly acknowledged Judy as his daughter. It wasn't until Judy was 31 years old that she discovered the truth about her parentage. The secrecy surrounding the affair and the concealed birth of Gable's child became one of the most talked-about scandals in Hollywood at the time. Gable's career, however, was undeterred by these personal challenges. He remained one of Hollywood's top leading men and was known for his rugged masculinity and versatility. His personal life, including multiple marriages and affairs, was often overshadowed by his immense professional success. Tragically, Gable died of a heart attack in 1960, just after completing The Misfits 1961, a film that would also mark the final film for Marilyn Monroe. Despite his personal controversies, Gable's legacy as a cinematic legend endures, and he remains one of the most revered figures in Hollywood history. George Raft. George Raft, a leading actor in Hollywood during the 1930s and 1940s, was known for his roles as a tough, smooth-talking gangster in films like Scarface, 1932, and They Drive By Night, 1940. Raft's career was largely built on his ability to portray characters with a dangerous edge, drawing from his real-life connections to the underworld. However, his personal life and off-screen persona were just as controversial as his roles. Raft's ties to the mafia and organized crime were well documented, and it was widely believed that he had close associations with notorious figures such as Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel. This connection to the criminal world became a significant point of gossip and speculation during his career. While Raft himself denied any direct involvement in illegal activities, his reputation was tarnished by these associations, which many believed influenced his Hollywood career. He was often seen as someone who operated on the fringes of the law both on and off screen. Despite these rumors, Raft's career as a Hollywood star remained strong for a time, but his personal controversies eventually caught up with him. In the 1940s, after turning down several key roles including the part of Sam Spade in The Maltese Falcon 1941, which later went to Humphrey Bogart, Raft's career began to decline. His public persona became more defined by his rumored criminal ties than his acting abilities. By the 1950s, Raft's opportunities in Hollywood diminished and he moved into lesser roles. Raft spent his later years living in obscurity, with his association to the mafia and the fallout from his career being the defining marks of his legacy. Jackie Coogan. Jackie Coogan, a child star in the silent film era, is best remembered for his role alongside Charlie Chaplin in The Kid, 1921, a film that made him a household name. Coogan's performance was so moving that it made him one of the highest-paid child actors of his time. However, his story is equally infamous for the financial exploitation he suffered at the hands of his mother and stepfather, which led to one of the most important legal changes in Hollywood history. In the 1930s, Coogan's parents had squandered most of his earnings, which were estimated to be around $3 to $4 million. At the age of 23, Coogan took legal action against his mother and stepfather, who had mishandled his finances during his childhood. He won a legal case, but after covering legal fees, he was left with only $126,000 of his original fortune. The scandal surrounding his financial exploitation led to the passage of the Coogan Act, also known as the Child Actors Bill, which required that a portion of a child actor's earnings be set aside in a trust to be given to them when they reached adulthood. The law was meant to protect child actors from financial abuse, making Coogan's case a landmark in the protection of children in the entertainment industry. After his legal battles, Coogan's career never fully recovered. While he continued to act mostly in supporting roles and television series, he was never able to recapture the fame he had as a child star. However, he became a beloved figure later in life for his role as Uncle Fester on the popular 1960s TV show The Addams Family. Despite the tragic early loss of his wealth and childhood, Coogan's legacy as both a trailblazer for child actor rights and a nostalgic television character remains a significant part of Hollywood history. William Randolph Hearst. William Randolph Hearst was one of the most powerful media moguls in American history, known for owning a vast empire of newspapers, magazines, and radio stations. Hearst's influence on American journalism and public opinion was immense, and he is often credited with shaping much of the 20th century's media landscape. However, his life was not without controversy, particularly in his relationships and his use of the media to manipulate public perception. One of the most infamous aspects of Hearst's personal life was his affair with actress Marion Davies, which was a scandal that would have long-lasting effects on both their lives. The affair began in the 1920s, when Davies, a Hollywood starlet, became Hearst's mistress, and their relationship continued for over 3 decades. Hearst, who was married to Millicent Hearst at the time, used his media empire to protect Davies' career, allowing her to rise to stardom despite a lack of acting talent. The relationship between Hearst and Davies became widely known, but it was largely ignored by the public as Hearst's control over his media outlets allowed him to keep details of his personal life away from the scrutiny of the press. However, Hearst's personal affairs and his powerful role in the media did not shield him from other public scandals. In 1924, the mysterious death of Thomas Ince, a Hollywood producer who was aboard Hearst's private yacht, became a major point of speculation. Ince's death was officially ruled as a heart attack, but rumors suggested that he had been shot by Hearst in a jealous rage, possibly due to his suspicions that Ince was having an affair with Davies. The story was further complicated when the Los Angeles Times initially published a headline reading, "Movie producer shot on Hearst yacht," only to retract it and suppress the story. While Hearst's media empire continued to thrive, his personal life, marked by scandalous affairs, questionable business practices, and manipulative control over the press, remains an indelible part of his legacy. His story illustrates the immense power wielded by media moguls in the 20th century, as well as the complicated intersection of personal and public life that defined the golden age of Hollywood. Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock, widely regarded as the master of suspense, was one of the most influential filmmakers in the history of cinema, known for his pioneering contributions to the thriller genre. His works, including Psycho 1960, Rear Window 1954, and North by Northwest 1959, revolutionized the way suspense and tension were portrayed on screen. However, Hitchcock's legacy is also marred by allegations of abusive behavior, particularly towards his leading ladies. One of the most well-documented controversies surrounding Hitchcock involved his treatment of Tippi Hedren, the star of his 1963 film, The Birds. Hedren, a relatively unknown actress at the time, was selected by Hitchcock for the role, but their working relationship quickly became strained. Hitchcock, who was notorious for his controlling nature, allegedly became obsessed with Hedren. He reportedly manipulated her by isolating her from the rest of the cast and crew, and he even went as far as to stage a series of scenes where live birds were used to attack her in the infamous bird attack sequences. Hedren later revealed that Hitchcock's treatment of her went beyond professional, and that he made unwanted advances towards her, leading to her suffering both emotionally and psychologically. This mistreatment severely impacted Hedren's career with Hitchcock, allegedly blocking her from taking other roles in the years following The Birds. Hitchcock's behavior extended to other actresses as well, such as Grace Kelly and Janet Leigh, who spoke about his obsessive control over them during their films. Despite his towering reputation as a filmmaker, these allegations of abuse and manipulation have cast a shadow over his work. In the years following his death, Hitchcock's personal life and his treatment of actresses have been the subject of much debate, with many re-evaluating his legacy as an artist and a man. John Lennon. John Lennon, one of the founding members of the legendary band The Beatles, became an icon not only for his revolutionary music, but also for his bold political activism and his personal life, which often sparked controversy. Lennon's influence on popular music and culture was unparalleled, but his public statements and actions also made him a polarizing figure, particularly in the 1960s and 1970s. One of the most infamous scandals in Lennon's life occurred in 1966, when he made a statement during an interview with Maureen Cleave of the London Evening Standard, claiming that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. The comment was initially met with little attention in the UK, but caused an explosive backlash when it was reprinted in the United States. The comment enraged many religious groups, particularly in the Bible Belt, who considered it sacrilegious. In response, several American radio stations banned Beatles records, and protests were organized in which people burned Beatles albums in anger. This controversy added fuel to the anti-Beatles sentiment in the US at a time when the band was already facing mounting pressure from the public and the media. Lennon later expressed regret for the statement, clarifying that he had not meant to offend anyone and that it was simply a reflection of the band's popularity at the time. However, the incident marked a turning point in his life and career as it made him a target of criticism and placed him at the center of a culture war. Lennon's political views, including his outspoken opposition to the Vietnam War and his support for various left-wing causes, further alienated him from conservative audiences and governments, including the Nixon administration, which reportedly tried to deport him due to his activism. Despite the controversies, Lennon's music and message of peace continue to resonate today. His untimely death in 1980, when he was tragically murdered outside his New York City apartment by Mark David Chapman, cut short a life filled with artistic brilliance and public debate. Lennon's legacy, defined by his music activism and the scandals that shaped his public persona, remains a complex and enduring influence on both the music world and global culture. Behind the glamour of Hollywood lies a dark side of secrets and scandals that have shaped the lives of its stars. From the shocking accusations against Alfred Hitchcock and his mistreatment of actresses like Tippi Hedren, to John Lennon's controversial comment that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus, these moments have left lasting impacts on their legacies. But how much do these personal dramas define their true contributions? Should we separate the art from the artist? Or is it impossible to ignore the chaos behind the scenes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Uncovered Tinseltown, Uncovered for more shocking revelations.